Narcissists don't have the ability to connect with people healthily. And you can see they go from one extreme to the other quite quickly. Because when you have something that the narcissist likes, even if it's just the feeling of infatuation, narcissists can connect with you quite intensely. They can be into you quite intensely. But conversely, when they're upset with you about something, or when you're not uplifting them in the way they need, they can also push you away quite intensely. They can feel very distant, quite in a very intense manner. So you sense this push pull because it's all about the narcissist getting their needs met. And that's not a healthy way of connecting because narcissists, they look for people from the perspective of how the people can make them feel better about themselves, which in a way is fair enough because we all want to be around people who make us feel better. But narcissists look for people who help them emotionally self regulate. And that's why narcissists, if they've had someone in their life for a long time who have helped them self regulate, because maybe the person knows what to say to make the narcissist feel good about themselves, maybe the person has been there to help the narcissist whenever they have any kind of emotional downfall, emotional crash, or things are not working out for them. That person has been there to help mitigate that crash, being a safety net, so to speak. When the narcissist has somebody of that nature in their life, someone who helps them self regulate, helps them feel good about themselves, and also somebody who tends to try to people please and takes a lot of crap and nonsense from the narcissist. When the narcissist pushes those people away, it could be at a time where the person might have upset them, or maybe they were temporarily distracted by something else. Could have been some form of infatuation on something else. Not always a person, could be on some type of goal, something that temporarily distracted them. But when narcissists have a temporary distraction, they're very good at pushing people away. But when that other distraction fades, when they're no longer focused intensely on that other thing, and that other thing doesn't hold their attention in the same way, they fall back and they need that person again who was their emotional regulator. And that's where the narcissist often finds themselves in a downfall, so to speak, in this vacuum, in this place where they're not getting their needs met, because narcissists so often push the very people away that they need in their lives to support them. But they can't help it. It just comes with the disorder. Because they can quickly paint somebody, they can quickly, from one moment, see somebody through rose colored glasses, but then they can paint them as all black when they're not happy with that person. And when they do that, they feel this need to push the person away, or escape, or punish the person, or give them the silent treatment, and so on, stonewalling them. But then when they inevitably fall back into this place where they need someone to emotionally regulate them, someone who they can kind of vent off their frustrations and maybe even use as a scapegoat, possibly stroking their ego as needed. When that person's no longer there, then they suffer a lot and they struggle to operate and they struggle to, do the basic of tasks. And that's probably the most toxic pattern that narcissists have from their perspective. Obviously, from your perspective, the whole push-pull is not healthy. But from and from your perspective, nothing about the narcissist is healthy because you simply don't matter in the relationship. Only they matter. It's always a one-sided rendezvous. From the narcissist perspective, what they struggle with the most is they always inevitably push people away because momentarily they're painting the person as all black, or momentarily something else has their attention, or momentarily they just feel the need to get an ego boost from punishing the other person and perhaps even trying to make the other person chase them. But when you do that, you end up pushing the person away a bit too far, and you no longer have any ability to use them as your emotional regulator. And then they get stuck in the space where they're not getting their basic needs met. And that's the worst thing about narcissism for the narcissist. is the very nature of the disorder causes them to push people away who are also the very people who are the only ones who can help them get their needs met. And that's why they instinctively, intuitively know how to trauma bond you so hard. Because if on the one hand someone has a personality disorder where they need you, but on the other hand, they have this instinctive nature to punish you and hurt you to the point where you're pushed away too far. The only way to bridge that gap is to trauma bond the person. Because what trauma bonding is, it allows the narcissist to punish you, to push you away, to try to get you to chase, and do all that stuff that they need for their own supply purposes. But at the same time, being trauma bonded, you're less likely to go away for good, at least at the beginning. The trauma bond hardly ever keeps people around forever, but it keeps them around longer than any person would under normal circumstances. And that's how narcissists get their needs met with people, because in any normal relationship, if someone would behave towards you like a narcissist does, you'd probably leave within 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. But the narcissist plays their cards such that you have this kind of addictive bond, dependency on them because of the way they push, pull, and intensely love bomb you and then kind of go quiet and so on. Such that the moment that you start becoming devalued, you might stick it out 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, maybe even many years after the point where you've already started being devalued. And what keeps you connected to them is that trauma bond and the lack of understanding of what you were dealing with. But inevitably, you do get pushed away, in which case the narcissist does have to find a replacement. But finding people, what narcissists really need for them to get their needs met, they need somebody who's willing to sacrifice their whole life for the narcissist. Someone who's willing to sacrifice all their self-respect, all their self-worth, their identity, their needs, their plans, their natural need to be heard and understood and sympathized with. Your personal health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your close family, everything that can possibly make up a healthy persona. What narcissists need is somebody who's willing to sacrifice all of that to be with the narcissist. And narcissists have this grandiosity that they think they're worth the ultimate sacrifice. The narcissist's grandiose sense of self is nothing other than them overcompensating for their fragile sense of deep-rooted shame that they can never quite shake off. When you have such deep-rooted shame as the narcissist does, the only way you can ever feel balanced is to greatly overcompensate with a grandiose persona. But the problem is, they can never support that grandiose persona for long because they need people to reflect that back to them. And people don't reflect it back for long. And even if people try to reflect it back for long, the very people who try to reflect it back for long, because you're trying to reflect the narcissist as being somebody who's a superior being, they quickly devalue you such that you reflecting that back to them has no potency anymore. That's why they try to destroy you. I guess if you summarize that whole conversation in a few words, is narcissists need people to self-regulate. They don't do well on their own for long. But for somebody to help them self-regulate, it means the ultimate sacrifice.